As Chief Whip, Norman Armstrong was one of the few politicians in Westminster content to ply his trade out of the public eye, deftly scheming and manoeuvring in the shadows beneath the sensitive radar of the lobby correspondents. His portfolio was party discipline, instilling, by force or inducement, a sense of common purpose amongst a large and disparate collection of government MPs. Norman often joked that his role was the political equivalent of making the trains run on time, a more charitable observation than offered by his old friend Enoch Powell, who once opined that the Commons without whips was like a city without sewers. Both Norman Armstrong and his deputy, Charles Seymour, were consummate practitioners of the dark arts that informed the whip's day-to-day operations, their ongoing mission to secure the smooth enactment of their government's legislative agenda. They were the armaments of the ship of state aimed inwardly toward their own wavering backbenchers. Their ammunition, fired with uncanny accuracy, ranged from rubber bullets of charm and strategically offered incentives to missiles of robust aggression, intimidation, and even blackmail. An extensive network of carefully nurtured informants kept the whips fully informed about even the most intimate details of their MPs' public and private lives, to the extent that the senior whips knew more about most of the government members than did their own families, which, as Norman often reflected when updating the secret dirt book, was not necessarily a bad thing, for the sake of the honourable member's domestic bliss. As the euphoria of the summer's election triumph receded in the face of the cooler winds of autumn, the Chief Whip and his staff were much occupied in overseeing the passage of what was known within the government as the Donoghue Amendment, although for public consumption it was dressed up as the Local Government Planning Efficiency Initiative. It was a contentious change to existing planning laws, and one that would particularly favour billionaire media and property mogul Sir Eddie Donoghue, the Conservative Party's largest individual donor, personal friend to a number of senior Tories, including Norman Armstrong himself, and a fervent admirer of the Prime Minister. The practical consequences of this amendment made it much easier for Donoghue's construction companies, which specialised in tower blocks, shopping centres and office complexes, to expedite approval for major developments. The Chief Whip knew that not everyone in government was happy, and had become aware that a small group of dissident backbenchers, known in the Whip's office as the Awkward Squad, were actually going to side with the opposition and vote against it. This wasn't a major issue in itself. The government's crushing majority and the reassuring dominance of the Dry faction, who were lockstep in support, would see the bill pass convincingly. For the Chief Whip, it came down to a matter of pure principle. Once you let backbenchers go their own way, he believed it was a short trip to complete and suicidal anarchy within the party. A nerve-wracking state of affairs against which Norman, Charles and their assistant whips had waged a relentless battle during their government's fraught and divided first term. The ringleader of the Awkward Squad was Stanley Smee, Parliamentary Private Secretary to the Secretary of State for Environment, an egregious example of treason in the Chief Whip's eyes, and one that was not going to go unpunished.